She said, "This is my body, and I'll get tattoos if I want to." After getting a tattoo of another man's name, I replied, "I support your bodily autonomy." I then exercised my own autonomy by autonomously moving all my belongings out of our shared apartment while she was at the parlor. I, 29M, never thought I'd be writing one of these posts, but here we are. 3 weeks ago, my life imploded in the most spectacularly public way possible, and I'm still processing everything that happened. My girlfriend and I had been together for 4 years, living together for 2. We had what I thought was a solid relationship, shared goals, good communication, the whole package. Or so I believed until I discovered she'd been seeing her coworker for the past 6 months. The discovery happened in the most mundane way possible. I was using her laptop to check my email when a notification popped up. It wasn't intentional snooping, but the preview showed enough to make my stomach drop. Messages about meeting up, about how much she missed him, about their plans for when I was out of town on business trips. I sat there staring at the screen for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. For years together, and this is how I find out. I could have confronted her immediately, demanded explanations, started the whole messy process of fighting and crying and trying to work things out. Instead, something cold and calculating settled over me. I wanted to see exactly how deep this went. Over the next few days, I paid attention to things I'd previously overlooked. The way she guarded her phone, the sudden increase in work events she needed to attend, the new clothes she claimed were for confidence at the office. It was all there, and I'd been completely blind to it. The breaking point came when she announced she was getting a tattoo. She'd always been ambivalent about tattoos, claiming they weren't really her thing when I'd mentioned getting one myself. But suddenly she was excited about this meaningful piece of art she wanted on her shoulder. I asked her what design she had in mind, trying to keep my voice casual. She was evasive, saying it was a surprise and that I'd see it when it was done. Something about the way she avoided eye contact told me everything I needed to know. I did some digging. Nothing invasive, just checking the social media of her coworker whose name I'd seen in those messages. There it was, posted just 2 days earlier. A photo of his own shoulder tattoo, a distinctive design with his name incorporated into it. The caption talked about how meaningful it was and how he couldn't wait to see the matching one his special someone was getting. The audacity of it hit me like a physical blow. Not only was she cheating, but she was planning to permanently mark her body with this man's name while still living in our shared apartment, still pretending we had a future together. That night, she brought up the tattoo again, this time more defensively. She told me about her appointment the following afternoon and seemed to be bracing for an argument. When I asked if she was sure about the design, she got irritated and launched into a speech about bodily autonomy and how she didn't need my permission for anything she did with her own body. I agreed with her completely. I told her she was absolutely right about having control over her own body and her own choices. The relief on her face was almost comical. She'd clearly expected a fight and was pleased that I was being so reasonable about it. What she didn't know was that I was already 3 steps ahead. I'd spent the previous day making arrangements. I'd found a new apartment, nothing fancy, just a clean 1-bedroom place across town that I could move into immediately. I'd also taken the day off work, telling my boss I had a family emergency that needed immediate attention. The morning of her tattoo appointment, I was the picture of supportive boyfriend. I asked her what time her appointment was, wished her luck, and even gave her a kiss goodbye. She left around noon, telling me she'd probably grab dinner with some friends afterward and would be home late. The moment her car disappeared around the corner, I started moving. I'd already packed the essentials the night before: clothes, important documents, laptop, the few items that were unquestionably mine. The rest took about 4 hours. I had help from my brother and 2 friends who I'd sworn to secrecy. They thought I was being dramatic, but they helped anyway. We moved systematically through the apartment. All my furniture went to storage or the new place. My books, my kitchen gadgets, my half of the decorations we'd accumulated together, everything that belonged to me disappeared from that apartment. I even took my contributions to shared purchases, like the coffee maker I'd bought and the TV that had been my housewarming gift to us. The most satisfying part was cleaning out the joint bank account, taking exactly half of what we'd both contributed, down to the penny. I'd kept meticulous records, so I knew exactly what belonged to me. I left the utilities in her name since she'd be staying, but I called and removed myself from all the accounts. Same with the lease. I'd already spoken to the landlord about transferring my portion of the responsibility to her. Everything was legal, everything was fair, and everything was final. The only things I left behind were a few shared photos and a note on the kitchen counter. The note was simple: I support your bodily autonomy. I'm exercising mine by autonomously moving out. Best wishes for your future with your coworker. The utilities and lease are now your responsibility. By 6 p.m., it was like I'd never lived there at all. The apartment looked strangely empty with half the furniture gone, but it was no longer my problem. I was sitting in my new place, ordering pizza, and trying to process what I'd just done when my phone started ringing. She called 17 times that first night. I didn't answer any of them. The voicemails started angry, demanding to know where I was, accusing me of being childish and dramatic. By the 10th call, she was crying, asking me to come home so we could talk. By the 17th, she was begging, saying she could explain everything. The text messages were even more revealing. She admitted to the affair, claimed it meant nothing, said she'd ended it, and that the tattoo was a mistake she'd have removed. She promised she'd do anything to fix things, that she loved only me, that she'd been confused and stupid but was ready to commit completely. I replied with a single message: your body, your choice. My life, my choice. We're done. The fallout was swift and brutal. She'd apparently told our mutual friends that I'd left without warning over a tattoo, conveniently leaving out the context of whose name was now permanently inked on her shoulder. When the truth came out, and it always does in our social circle, the narrative shifted quickly. Her coworker, it turned out, was married with kids. His wife found out about the affair when his special someone showed up at their workplace with his name tattooed on her shoulder. The whole thing exploded publicly, and both of them ended up in serious trouble at work for their inappropriate relationship. My ex lost her job 2 weeks later. Whether it was due to the scandal, her inability to focus after our breakup, or a combination of both, I don't know and don't particularly care. She had to move back in with her parents since she couldn't afford the apartment alone. The married co-worker's life imploded even more spectacularly. His wife filed for divorce and took the kids. He got demoted at work and had to deal with being the office pariah. His social media, which I admit I checked once out of curiosity, showed a man whose entire life had collapsed in the span of a month. Update 1. It's been 3 months now since I moved out, and I feel like I should update everyone who was following this story. The aftermath has been both more and less dramatic than I expected. First, the practical stuff. The transition to living alone has been surprisingly smooth. My new apartment is smaller, but it's mine. I've been able to focus on my work without the constant stress of pretending everything was fine, and I actually got promoted last month. Turns out when you're not emotionally drained by a failing relationship, you have a lot more energy for everything else. My ex has tried to contact me several times. She showed up at my old gym, my favorite coffee shop, even waited outside my office building once. Each time, I simply left or called security if she wouldn't take the hint. I have no interest in hearing her explanations or apologies. Through mutual friends, I learned more about her situation. She's still unemployed and living with her parents. The tattoo removal process is apparently more painful and expensive than she anticipated, requiring multiple sessions that she can't afford right now. Her former co-worker's divorce was finalized last month, but he's not interested in continuing their relationship now that it's cost him everything. The most satisfying update came from an unexpected source. Remember how I mentioned that her former co-worker's wife found out about the affair? She reached out to me through social media to thank me for inadvertently exposing the truth. She said she'd suspected something was going on, but had no proof until the tattoo incident made it impossible to deny. She told me something that made my strategic exit feel even more justified. The affair had been going on for almost 8 months, not 6 like I'd initially thought. They'd been planning to move in together once he left his wife. My girlfriend hadn't just been cheating, she'd been actively planning her exit from our relationship while still taking advantage of our shared life. The married coworker had apparently promised her a future together, which explained why she'd gotten so bold about the tattoo. In her mind, she was marking herself as his before making their relationship public. She'd planned to break up with me after getting the tattoo, using it as a dramatic reveal of her new relationship. My timing had ruined everything for both of them. Update 2. 6 months post-breakup, and I'm writing this final update from a very different place than where I started this story. Life has improved dramatically. I've been dating someone new for 2 months now, someone I met through a hobby group, who has no connection to my ex or that entire situation. She's kind, straightforward, and refreshingly honest about her feelings and intentions. We're taking things slow, but it feels healthy and genuine in a way I'd forgotten was possible. My ex made one last attempt to reconcile about a month ago. She'd found my new address somehow and showed up with a letter. In it, she detailed her regrets, her therapy sessions, and her plans for making amends. She claimed the affair was a symptom of deeper issues she was working to resolve, and that she'd realized I was the only person she'd ever truly loved. I read the letter once, then threw it away. Too little, too late, and frankly, I don't care about her personal growth journey if it doesn't include learning to respect the people in her life. The most interesting development came from an unexpected quarter. Her sister contacted me to apologize for her family's behavior. Apparently, they'd initially blamed me for abandoning her sister in her time of need, but as more details emerged, they realized the full scope of what had happened. Her sister wanted me to know that they didn't support her actions and respected my decision to leave. She also mentioned that her sister had finally saved enough money to start the tattoo removal process, but the outline of the name is still visible. It serves as a daily reminder of the consequences of her choices, which feels like poetic justice. Her former co-worker has completely disappeared from our social circle. Last anyone heard, he'd moved to a different state for a fresh start. His ex-wife, meanwhile, has been thriving. She got a great settlement in the divorce and has been traveling with her kids, posting photos of their adventures on social media. She looks genuinely happy in a way that makes me glad the truth came out when it did. Looking back on that day when I discovered the messages, I'm grateful I chose the path I did. I could have confronted her immediately, tried to work things out, gone through months of painful counseling and attempted reconciliation. Instead, I trusted my instincts and removed myself from a situation that was fundamentally dishonest. Some people have criticized my approach, calling it cold or calculating. They say I should have given her a chance to explain that relationships are worth fighting for, that everyone makes mistakes. Maybe they're right about relationships being worth fighting for, but only when both people are actually in the relationship, not when one person has already checked out and started planning their exit strategy. The tattoo was just the final insult, the thing that made her deception impossible to ignore. But the real betrayal was the months of lies, the double life, the complete disregard for my feelings and our shared future. She made her choice long before she walked into that tattoo parlor. I made mine when I walked out of that apartment. Sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate schemes or public humiliation. Sometimes it's simply refusing to participate in someone else's drama and taking control of your own story. I supported her bodily autonomy by respecting her right to make her own choices. And I exercised my own autonomy by choosing not to stay around for the consequences. Both of us are living with the results of our decisions now. The difference is, I'm happy with mine.